We have the following representatives: Jim Hardy, the United States Coast Guard Academy admissions partner; Lieutenant Ryan McCann, the United States Merchant Marine Academy; Lieutenant Yi-Chan Kim, United States Naval Academy; Captain Brad Davis, United States Military Academy. Yes, I see him waving already. Lawrence Mullen, Deputy Chief of the Department of Defense Medical Examination Review Board; and Lieutenant Colonel Michelle Parlett, who I believe also has a puppy with her that the point wanted to also talk, I think.
Sure.
And I believe John Phillips, also from Army ROTC San Diego State, as well as the Lieutenant Colonel. I would also like to thank those of you who are active reservists or veterans for your service. You have made an obvious impact on everyone's lives, and we thank you very much for your service to our country. Thank you. And thank you to Marlene Carrillo of my staff, who is assisting with the technical function of this event. If anything goes wrong, yell at her, not me, because I won't be able to fix it. I promise you, she might be able to. So maybe you shouldn't yell at her. For the last 7 years, I've had the pleasure of nominating students from the 51st Congressional District to various academies. Every year, I'm amazed when I read about the students seeking nomination. In addition to the many challenges they face juggling academics, extracurricular activities, life, they persevere and they thrive. There is so much talent and potential among our youth, and that is why tonight is so important. I applaud you all for venturing out, and it is my hope that tonight will bring you one step closer to your aspirations. Parents and school staff, I commend you for taking interest and assisting them in the process. I commend you for supporting your children in their educational goals. To all potential candidates, know you will do great, no matter where tonight takes you. We will open the conversation at the end of the program with questions and answers session. Please take the opportunity to ask questions that come to mind. You may type in your question throughout the program in the chat option below. And I have to say, one of the great thrills of my life these days has been when someone is accepted and I'm able to call them and let them know that they've been accepted. And it's thrilling, really. And I've had now a number of people graduate and again, go and serve our country. And I can't tell you how proud I am of them and how proud they make this community. So again, thank you very much for their interest, and thank you for all of you that are here tonight. Okay. Well, we're going to go to Yi-Chan Kim then. Lieutenant Yi-Chan Kim, the United States Naval Academy. Now, I've seen you go yes and no. You've got 7 minutes. Let's see if you can come on.
All right, thank you, sir. Can everyone hear me?
Yes. Yes.
All right, thank you for having me, Congressman. My name is Lieutenant Yi-Chan Kim, and I'm the admissions counselor for California for the United States Naval Academy. I did submit a PowerPoint, but it looks like it wasn't available, so I'll just kind of talk for 7 minutes. A little background information about myself. Oh, there it is. Great. So I am a representative from the United States Naval Academy. A little bit background information about myself. I am the class of 2014. Originally grew up in Los Angeles, and I went to the Naval Academy directly from high school. I'm a helicopter pilot by trade. I just finished up my flying tour here in February, and I started this job in the Office of Admissions in February, and I actually live in California. So if you're applying from the state of California, you'll be working with me throughout the application process. And I'll leave my contact information as well for any questions that you might have coming up in the application. Next slide, please.
The next slide.
All right, I'll keep talking so we keep on timeline. Who are we? We're the United States Naval Academy. Next slide, thank you. We were founded in 1845 with the purpose of educating the future leaders in the Navy. We're a 4-year institution. We're undergraduate only, and we have 25 academic majors. US News actually came out. We are the #1 top public college in the country. And then the 25 majors, we'll have a slide for it later as well. We're located in Annapolis, Maryland, which you've never been there. It's about 25 miles away from Washington, D.C., and 25 miles away from Baltimore. On any given day, we have about 4,500 students at the Naval Academy, and it's usually about 72% male, 28% female. Actually, the incoming class, our freshman class, we've had the highest number of female admits ever in the history of the Naval Academy. We also have students from all 50 states just because the way the nomination process works. So you're going to be going to school with a very diverse body from people that grew up all over the country. We also have sailors and Marines directly from the fleet that are coming back to study at the Naval Academy. Next slide, please. All right, what does the Naval Academy offer? Next slide. So like we talked about, you're gonna, if you go back, please. So like we talked about, you're gonna be receiving a top-notch education in the top, #1 top public college in the country. You're gonna study there for 4 years and graduate with the Bachelor of Science. Because our core curriculum is so STEM focused, even if you major in English or history, you'll still be graduating with the Bachelor of Science. Benefits, it's actually, every student that goes to the Naval Academy receives a full scholarship, and I like to call it a super scholarship because not only is tuition paid for, but room and board, meals, you're gonna have full medical dental coverage, laptops, books, clothes, uniforms, anything that you can think of that you might need are gonna be provided for you. Not only that, you actually get paid about $1,100 a month to go to school and be a student. Big caveat is you're only gonna see $125 of that as a freshman, but it incrementally increases as you become a senior. That bottom right corner, career. So the whole point of the Naval Academy is to commission officers into the Navy and Marine Corps. Things that you can do, you can be a surface warfare officer where you drive boats, you can be a submarine officer where you drive submarines, and you're gonna be navigating those warships in some of the busiest maritime traffic areas, choke points in the world. You could go aviation and become a pilot like I did. We have jets, helicopters, maritime aircraft, all operating in and around the maritime environment. You could also go into special warfare and become a Navy SEAL. We actually have the highest amount of officer billets in the country from the Naval Academy. About 20 to 25% of our graduating class goes Marine Corps. So you can be a Marine Corps pilot or become a Marine Corps ground officer. So all the different jobs available in the Marine Corps are available to you through the Naval Academy as well. So kind of long story short is you don't really need to know what you want to do there. You're gonna have 3 years to get exposed to those different communities and be able to have an opportunity to spend time on a boat, submarine, a week with the Marine Corps, and get to fly in an airplane to really see what's a good fit for you. And I would say the job opportunities are very diverse, and about 95% actually get their #1 or #2 choice in terms of jobs when they graduate. So with school being free, there is a minimum 5-year service requirement in either the Navy or the Marine Corps, but depending on what jobs you get, for example, aviation, because I'm a pilot, that contract could be a little bit longer. Next slide, please. All right, so these are the 25 academic majors that we have. Everything on the left is engineering and weapons. Middle, we have the math and sciences, and on the right, we have the humanities and social sciences. Like we talked about, everything that you see with an asterisk, we have an honors track available for that as well. I myself was an ocean engineer, and I was the honors track, so I actually got to do some research one-on-one with a professor my senior year, where I worked on measuring surface tension and friction. And the picture you see, those are actually my classmates, and they're all ocean engineers. And the student you see touching that yellow boat, she's actually a Navy diver now, so that's pretty cool. All right, next slide, please. All right, so the physical mission is extremely important at the Naval Academy, like all the surface academies. So you will be participating in some kind of sport while you're there. We have 30 NCAA Division I sports. There's only 2 other institutions with more Division I sports, and that's Ohio State and Stanford University. So if you're a competitive athlete and you want to play at the D1 level, the Naval Academy can be a great fit for you. Get to the Naval Academy, they also compete all over the country, and it's pretty competitive to get onto. If you're not a varsity or club athlete, you will be participating in intramurals. We have 3 seasons, and the Brigade of Midshipmen votes on 5 sports per season, and you'll be competing against other students at the Naval Academy. Next slide, please. All right, next slide. Okay, so the online application. this is the application for the Naval Academy. Big thing that I want to talk about here is, I'll just keep talking. So the application to the Naval Academy is online on our official website at usna.edu/admissions, and it's open for seniors currently. We extended our deadline to February 28th because of all the extenuating circumstances with COVID-19 this year. However, the deadlines for the nominations for each office are different, and typically those deadlines are in October and in November. So if you're a senior watching this right now, make sure that you get those applications in, because those deadlines are most likely coming up in a couple of weeks. So I'll talk about the overview of the application. So about 16,000 people apply every year, about 12,000 become official candidates. Now, by the time you're scholastically qualified, you take the physical CFA and you pass the physical test, you get medically qualified, and you obtain a nomination. That number drops down to about 3,400 eligible students. Next slide. And of those 3,400 eligible students, about 1,100 spots are available for the incoming freshman class. So what that means for you is, yeah, the application is long and you essentially have to do 2 separate applications for a spot at the Naval Academy. If you meet all the criteria, your chances of getting into the Naval Academy are actually pretty good. It's about 40%. We also have about 230 to 250 spots to our preparatory school each year, which is located in Newport, Rhode Island. And there's no separate application for that. However, once it goes to the board and it looks like your application, we want you to come to the Naval Academy, you'd be a great fit, but maybe your academics are a little bit weaker, or maybe your sports are a little bit weaker, we could offer you a spot to our prep school where you go there for a year and then come to the Naval Academy the next year. Next slide, please. All right, so this is advice for admissions. This is pertinent more for everyone below senior year, but we're looking for a strong foundation in math and science. So we're really looking for you to have taken pre-calculus and calculus by the time you graduate from high school. We also are looking for chemistry and physics with lab if possible. There's no minimum GPA to apply, but we recommend that you strive to be in the top 20% of your class. And we do require the SAT and ACTs. We are test flexible this year because of the COVID-19 pandemic and testing facilities being closed throughout the state of California. However, we are asking that you give us some kind of documentation that you at least try to take the test. So we are test flexible and you can apply without a test score. However, for everyone junior year and below, please plan on taking it for applying in the future. AP Honors IB courses are encouraged. And lastly, we're looking for well-rounded students. We're not just looking for someone that has a 4.0 but never played in sports or participated in extracurricular activities. We're looking for someone that can fulfill the academic mission, the physical mission, and the leadership mission, where they're involved in the community, they hold leadership positions. Those are the well-rounded students that we're looking for and succeed at the Naval Academy. Next slide, please. All right, top 5 reasons to go to Navy. Like we talked about, you will be receiving a full scholarship to attend the Naval Academy. Thankfully, I was able to graduate in 2014 with 0 student debt. Not only that, after you graduate, you're going to be guaranteed employment. So the day after I graduated, I had a job as a Navy pilot, and I went off to flight school. Location-wise, we're located in Annapolis, Maryland. It's a beautiful town. It's considered the sailing capital of the United States, very close to DC, very metropolitan area. Next, we have leadership and character development, and this is personally my biggest reason and the biggest thing I think that separates the service academies. The fact that you're going to school with 4,500 other students that are striving towards the same goal of becoming officers and challenging themselves to grow personally really puts you in a very unique environment for you to grow as a person. The person you come in as a freshman versus the person that graduates from the Naval Academy is going to be vastly different. Lastly, we have an 89% graduation rate. So what that means for you is, yes, college is hard on its own, but on top of that, you're going to have to do extra military obligations. You're going to have to stay in shape and pass physical tests twice a year. However, what that 89% graduation rate really shows you is if you're committed and dedicated, you have an extremely high chance of success. Next slide, please. All right, like I talked about, usna.edu/admissions, that's where you will find our official website, and that's where you can apply for the Naval Academy application as well. If you're a senior, highly recommend going there and starting the application process. We also have Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and that's a great way for you to keep updated with what's going on at the Naval Academy. And that is the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for your time, and I'll be standing by for some questions and answers later.
Thank you very much, Lieutenant Kim. One of the things you didn't mention, but is interesting, is that Annapolis at one point was the capital of the United States.
Yes, sir, it was.
In fact, after the war, after the Revolutionary War, that is where George Washington went and ultimately resigned his commission after winning the war. It was interesting that people thought that he would stay on and become emperor or king, but he said, no, we are a republic. And he handed in his resignation there as commander of the army at the time. It was the armed forces, because that was the capital. A very noble thing to do after winning the war in Sacramento. And then, of course, we elected him president after that. But it was interesting. Everyone always thinks it was either Philadelphia or DC. It was actually at Annapolis.
Yes, sir.
A little tidbit. All right. Now, thank you very much. Now we're going to go to Larry Mullen. Larry is the Deputy Chief of the Department of Defense for the Medical Examination Review Board. Larry, we're going to go to you.
Thank you, Congressman. I don't have any slides or videos or sound effects. I just want to go ahead and give you the path to success. So should you apply to any of the service academies or ROTC programs, you'll have to be medically qualified, like Lieutenant Kim said. I've been doing my job for 29 years, so I want to give you some insight that might be helpful. These academies are extremely competitive, and they change from class to class. So I suspect that if you want to apply to one of the academies, you should apply to a few. You should apply to a few ROTC programs and a few civilian schools. The dilemma that you want to find yourself in is you're a senior, it's March, you go out to the mailbox, you've applied to 9 schools, and you now have 9 letters of acceptance. That does 2 things for you. It empowers you to go ahead and select the option that you really want. And also, between the mailbox and going back into the house, when your parents tell you to do chores, you can give them that look. That look just says, I've just got accepted to 9 schools. I don't think chores are in my future. And then run like heck. But again, you want to put yourself in the best position possible. The other thing is, once you decide that you want to pursue service academies and or ROTC, I would highly recommend that you go to the refrigerator. Your mom won't like this, but take everything off the refrigerator and make a matrix. And on one axis, go ahead and put down the schools that you've applied to. And on the top axis, and this is critical, Lieutenant Kim just talked about it, there's different dates and different requirements for things. I guarantee you that your 2 senators and Congressman Vargas have different suspense dates for their nomination process. So you want to go ahead and put all those things up top. Then you can go to Target or Walmart and get those little red, yellow, and green dots. And when you've completed a task, you put in a green dot and you put the date on it. The yellow is when you've asked your counselors and teachers for the letter of recommendations. But this gives you and your parents a progress report of where you are in getting to the finish line. And when you have all green, then you can write the director of admissions of the academy and say, hey, I met my obligation. Are you going to give me an offer of appointment? So that's one of the things that I've learned. Regarding the medical process, I posted the first post in the chat room and gave you my email address. I'm available 24/7, 365 to receive emails. I won't give you my phone number because there's too many people and 535 friends of mine in Washington. I just can't afford to be on the phone that much, but I can answer email. And as Captain Davis knows from West Point, I do it 24 hours a day. So all of us are here tonight to help you go ahead and pursue your dreams. One of the things that's critical is all of these service academies and ROTC, in essence, have honor codes. And you want to be forthright and honest with your medical history up front. You don't want to get out to, say, the Air Force Academy at 7,258 feet above sea level and not tell us that you are using a bronchodilator 3 times a day and you've had asthma all your life. 1, you probably won't be able to make it off the bus, but 2, Now a lot of the opportunities that you had may have expired. So I take it as a personal obligation to each and every one of you that go through the DODMER process. If you're honest and forthright and expeditious with us, we'll do the same. So that if this is not going to be an opportunity for you, we'll let you know in enough time so that you can pursue something else. Again, as a young person, this is a very tedious process. So that's why I give you the ability to go ahead and contact me via email, to go ahead and ask any questions you have about a policy, procedure, etc. Want to talk about COVID-19 for a second? Obviously, that is foremost in the news. And there's rumors out there. So I am the horse that tells you the truth about medical. Basically, the Department of Defense has two categories that we've assigned to folks that may have COVID-19. Those that were not hospitalized and those that were hospitalized. For the non-hospitalized, we're basically following the CDC guidelines. 28 days, we'll ask you to see your own physician and to get certification if you've been diagnosed or tested positive, to say that there's no ramifications of it, and they're going to do a cardiopulmonary evaluation of you. It's basically just the price of an office visit. Shouldn't take that much to do that. I will tell you that US MEPCOM, that does all the enlisted folks, and we do the predominant number of officer folks, have not had the other category yet, and those are hospitalized applicants. Those that were tested positive, diagnosed, and then needed to be hospitalized. I will tell you that we will disqualify you, but that does not mean the game is over. And I want to translate that across the medical spectrum. Just because we disqualify you does not mean the game is over. Once we do that, then the service academies or ROTC programs can go ahead and look at you for a medical waiver. There are many conditions that we disqualify for each and every day that we want the investors, the academies or the ROTC programs, to just scrutinize a little bit closer. And basically what they'll be doing is making a risk assessment. Will the applicant be able to be trained, commissioned, and be worldwide deployable upon their commission? So again, one of the easy ones to think of is knee injury. Just because you had ACL surgery doesn't mean that you can't get into the academy or ROTC. We just want the programs and the service academies to look at you a little bit closer. So one of the things that I put in my chat box there was a applicant reference document. The next one I'm probably going to do is around Thanksgiving. This one was July 4th. I learn from you. I update it and speak in your language instead of bureaucratic-ese to go ahead and help you understand the process. If you were to be disqualified, how you start, and all aspects of the process. So again, once you decide to do this for any and all of the programs, you want to go from point A to point B as quick as possible. Now, the last thing I'll say is about the service academies. They go ahead and give you a pre-candidate questionnaire. If they determine in admissions that you have merit as an applicant, they'll go ahead and send you the full application and then contact us at DODMERB and we'll reach out and contact you. All service ROTC programs, Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marine Corps option, operate just the opposite. They basically board you and come up and say, congratulations, you've been offered a 4-year, 3-year scholarship contingent upon medical qualification or waiver. You can also be a campus-based applicant, which Colonel Parlett will talk about. So I'll leave you with the fact that we're proud that you went ahead and participated in this tonight. I'm available via email. Ask any questions you have. And one of the reasons I don't use PowerPoint slides or any of that stuff is because of the technological differences that we have. So thank you, Congressman Vargas. I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you very much, Larry. And I have to say, you didn't need slides. You were very clear and very practical. So thank you. I appreciate it. I think we all appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Now we're going to go to Captain Brad Davis, United States Military Academy, also known as West Point. You're on.
Great. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So a brief background on me, and I'll try to stick to my 7 minutes pretty closely here, but Captain Brad Davis, I cover not only California, but most of the West Coast as well. I'm originally a 2010 graduate of West Point. As a cadet, I was a management major, and I played on the men's rugby team. Currently serving as a military intelligence officer, which is the branch I commissioned into after graduating back in 2010. During my time in the Army, I've done everything from leading a very technically talented team of about 15 soldiers, intelligence soldiers that are trained in things like interrogation and media exploitation, all the way up to commanding an infantry unit of about 200 soldiers. And prior to coming to the admissions department, I went to Duke University and earned my MBA full-time, excuse me, and that was fully paid for by the Army. So those are just a few examples of some of the opportunities that you'll have after graduating from West Point. But with that, I'll go to the next slide. And I'll try to focus my remarks tonight on what differentiates West Point or makes West Point different from some of the other opportunities you'll hear about. Excuse me, so next slide. Okay. Looks like we may be stuck on the first slide. Well, I'll keep talking, and if we get the slides rolling, that'll be great. But if not, I'll go with the same version you got from Larry. But really, I think the key differentiator for West Point is all of the service academies, I think, are going to have a flavor of leadership development and training. But I think West Point really prides ourselves on this kind of essentially being the defining aspect of your military development, your academic development, all things. And so ultimately, you can see, looks like we've got one of the slides up here. Our mission is to educate, train, and inspire the Corps of Cadets so that each graduate is a commissioned leader of character, committed to service as an active duty Army officer after graduating. However, what I would tell you is that West Point graduates are known for leadership, and so that initially carries an initial military service obligation, but you'll find West Point leaders accomplishing many great things, both in civilian government or in civilian private industry. I think no matter where you look, you'll find West Point graduates serving as leaders. And so we'll go to the next slide, please. Okay, great. And so ultimately, as you look at the experience at West Point, we've got numerous third-party organizations that have great things to say about us. And I think, you really can't go wrong with any of the service academy options. And there's some very strong ROTC programs at some top institutions in the country out there as well. But I always like to highlight for West Point, you can certainly see that in things, not only from the feedback from some of these other parties, but things like all-time Rhodes Scholarship recipients, Marshall Scholar recipients. You can see some of the competition that West Point has for achievement in those scholarships. I think it starts to give you a good feeling for just how rigorous the academic program is at West Point. Next slide, please. And so what you can expect out of your time at West Point is to have an intimate education and classroom environment, typically 15 to 18 cadets. So it's a small classroom environment. And your faculty are largely comprised of active duty military officers. These are folks who have gone out to a higher degree program, either a master's or a PhD program at top institutions like Harvard or Yale or Stanford across the country. And they're bringing really that forefront of knowledge in their particular academic discipline directly back into the classroom for you as a cadet to benefit from. But then there's also this great incentive for them that they are themselves active duty military officers. They know that they are going to be training the next generation of leaders of our soldiers and for our nation. And so for them, there's really a kind of a unique incentive to make sure that you get the most out of your education and your development at West Point that I don't think exists in maybe a standard civilian school environment. So definitely something to be aware of, but due to that, intimate, small class size, I think what you can expect is you're going to be expected to participate every day. Your faculty are going to know your first name and look for you to contribute in a conversational style classroom environment. You are not going to be one of a number lost in a crowd of several hundred people in a large lecture hall. Next slide, please. And so again, as we talk about what differentiates West Point, we have very strong STEM offerings: science, technology, engineering, and math. But of all of the service academies, we have the most offerings in the humanities. So if you are interested in military service and interested in the service academy experience, but you're not quite sure that you're ready to commit to a STEM topic as your field of study in college, well then West Point probably has the most options for you to look at. And so for me, I was a management major, like I mentioned previously, so certainly some robust programs outside of our STEM or engineering fields. Next slide, please. And so next we'll be talking about military development. And so the construct here is most of your military training happens during the summer, so that during the academic year, your schoolwork is your focus, but during the summer, you're very focused on military development. This starts primarily during your first summer before your freshman or plebe year. So this is some of the basics that you're going to need to transition into a military career. Things like how to wear a uniform, but then also things more specific to the Army, things like marksmanship training, first aid training, learning how to foot march and conduct physical fitness training with other soldiers. As you go into your second year, you have essentially a kind of a natural progression of those things. You're doing things like learning how to do marksmanship with night vision devices. You're doing land navigation at night and learning how to find your way around the woods without a flashlight. So there's a lot of kind of natural progression of that skill set, and we kind of ramp up the challenge level for you during that second summer. You also have opportunities to pursue what I would call an academic internship during the summer, and these are fully funded programs that may partner with a civilian company or another government agency where you're able to apply some of the things that you're learning and pursuing for your academic major completely outside of a classroom environment. Next slide, please. And so as you move into your third and fourth summer, you have a variety of options, and really this is a menu for you to select from, but it gives you some options to customize your experience. And you could find yourself doing anything from cadet troop leader training, which is you're going to an active Army unit and shadowing a second lieutenant who is leading soldiers and kind of seeing day to day what it is like to be a brand new leader and officer leading soldiers. Or you may find yourself at one of the Army's military schools, things like airborne school, learning how to jump out of planes, air assault school, learning how to rappel out of helicopters. But West Point also has some very unique experiences. You can see some of the Chilean mountaineering, Brazilian mountaineering. Some of these international opportunities are based on West Point's relationship with our allied nations and their military academies. So there are some very unique once-in-a-lifetime opportunities that only reside at West Point that you may find available to you as a cadet at West Point. Next slide, please. And so next we'll be talking about the application process. And again, I'll try to focus on what makes West Point unique and different from some of the other folks that you'll hear speak this evening. But the key takeaway here is there's three aspects: the candidate application, where we're screening you for academic qualification; DODMERB is the medical qualification. Mr. Mullen just spoke to that. And then finally, the nomination. And so next slide, we'll start with the candidate application. Couple hot topics that I'll touch on. You can see generally what our requirements are, but I'll touch on the highlights here. The first is with standardized testing for the SAT or ACT. Like the Naval Academy, we have gone to a test flexible option for folks that are applying this year. Undetermined if this will continue and be a permanent aspect of our application, but for this year, due to impacts to COVID, we do have a test flexible policy. So what does that mean? It means that we first and foremost want you to take the SAT or ACT with essay and writing component. That's our first choice, and we're strongly encouraging all candidates to take that. If for some reason your test date is canceled due to COVID and you're not able to retest on a later date, we will accept your PSAT scores in lieu of those other tests. But we will require you to submit some documentation that shows us that COVID was the cause for your inability to take the other tests. And then thirdly, if for some reason you don't have PSAT and COVID prevented you from taking the SAT or ACT, We will consider your application without any standardized test score. But again, we will require that documentation that shows you were registered for one of the tests, but COVID caused it to be canceled. So as you approach that though, what I would say is, again, our preference is for you to take the SAT or ACT. So continue to be aggressive in pursuing one of those standardized tests. Don't get one test canceled and then just resign yourself to not being able to test. Continue to try. And then as we talk about the candidate fitness assessment, this is a common fitness assessment across most of the academies. What I would highlight for you is that West Point is the only academy that requires a video submission for push-ups and pull-ups. And so if you want to take the CFA for Navy or Air Force, for example, we can certainly accept those scores, but we do still require the video. So just make sure you take those. And then lastly, as we talk about the timeline for the application, our deadline is 31 January for completing the application. That is a little bit earlier than some of the other academies that have shifted to a later date in February. So just be advised, we are still with a deadline of 31 January. Next slide, please. And so as we talk about nominations, just a couple brief points of recommendation for you. You're obviously in the correct place if you're seeking Congressman Vargas's nomination, but don't forget that there are 3 other congressional nominations available to you. You have 2 senators from California you can apply for nominations from, and then also the vice presidential nomination. There's also 5 categories of service-connected nominations that you can go to our website to get more information about those. But as you look at nominations, the important piece is to apply for all nominations that you are eligible for. The reason for that is you can think of your application as competing against other candidates who are fully academically qualified and are medically qualified who have the same nomination as you. So if you have multiple nominations, that's multiple pools of qualified candidates you're able to compete in, and essentially it gives you more opportunities to receive an appointment. So apply for all nominations that you are eligible for. Next slide, please. Lastly, as we talk about visits, we are unfortunately closed to visits currently. However, if you go to westpointadmissions.com, we do have a great virtual campus visit experience available for you there. So I would definitely encourage everyone to go peruse that website. You'll see a lot of the sights and sounds and experiences that you would have if you came and joined us on campus for a visit. Next slide, please. And so in closing my remarks, I would say if you don't follow us on social media already, West Point Admissions is our handle. So be sure to check us out every Wednesday evening at 4:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We do conduct a pretty in-depth briefing. We have a cadet that will speak for about 20 or 30 minutes about just life as a cadet at West Point. And then we have an admissions officer that will go pretty in-depth on the application process, speak a little bit more in detail about how we handle the medical qualification process and what our interaction with DODMERB is there, and we'll also speak a little bit more about service-connected nominations there as well. So again, that's Wednesdays, 4:30 p.m. Pacific time on Facebook. Hopefully we'll see you all tuning in there in the future. But with that, Congressman, I'll turn it back to you. Thank you.
David, thank you very much, and I'm glad you said it was a differentiator from the other ones, not why you're better, because I would have had to give extra time then, of course, to the other ones to give their opinion. You're all very excellent, by the way. I've been to the academies there, and they're all magnificent. They really are. If you can get in, wow, this is a wonderful place.
I'll throw a beat Navy out there just for good measure.
Oh, why did you do that? Now I got to go to Nate. Why did you do that? All right. Now we're going to go to Lieutenant Colonel Michelle Parlett and Mr. John Phillips. Thank you again, and this is Army ROTC, San Diego State University. You're on.
All right, super. Well, thank you, Congressman Vargas. As Mar pulls up our slides here, we'll try to get through them quickly. We do have a condensed deck, but we didn't send that one, so I will try to get through all of these as well as I possibly can. But thank you all for being here. I really wish that I would have learned about all of my options before I actually ended up enlisted in the Army. I was so singularly focused on West Point that when that didn't pan out, I went down to the local recruiter. I still went ROTC later. I still ended up, commissioned, and so it's really all about not how you get there, but getting to your end state and your goal in the military. So I am the professor of military science for San Diego State University's Army ROTC program. Mr. Phillips there, coming in from Hawaii. He's got the palm trees swaying in the back there. He will brief you as well. So really, we're just here to educate you on the Army ROTC route and the options that you have either with our program or any program really across the nation to pursue your commission and enter the Army. Again, all the paths lead to the same end state. ROTC is just another way to get there. So if, you know, the rigors of an academy, you're not sure if that really suits you, then maybe ROTC is a route that you need to look at. So next slide, please, Mark. Okay, so this is just an overview of our program. What most people don't realize is we're not just San Diego State Army ROTC. We are all of these universities. So you can attend any of these and participate in our program. We do have uniformed cadre, of course, at San Diego State, also at University of San Diego and Cal State San Marcos, but we welcome any of you, from any of these colleges. So, whatever fits your degree plan and what you want to do best, you're certainly welcome in our program. So next slide. All right, so here's our program mission, fairly similar to West Point's mission, but we're here to recruit, retain, develop, and commission future leaders of the regular Army, so that would be active duty Army, the Army Reserves, or the Army National Guard. So we actually have our cadets that commission into all three of these components, which is a little unique. And from last year's commissioning class, about 45% actually went into the reserves or guard. And so they're now using their degree that they obtained in college through one of our universities to have a full-time civilian job. And then they just drill with the reserves or guard 1 weekend a month and 2 weeks out of the summer typically. But there is that option there in most cases to compete for active duty reserves or National Guard. Next slide. Okay, so this is a little bit about what our curriculum looks like. It is very just leadership specific, and you can see on the outsides there some of the classes that you would be taking at each level of the program. In the middle is the leadership lab, so that's 1 week out of the, 1 day out of each week that typically we're out at Miramar. Training on things such as tactics, combat casualty care, movement techniques. We're going to do combat water survival actually next week. We do that at the pool. So that's just 1 day a week, 1 afternoon out of your schedule. And then PT happens 3 times a week. Right now we're virtual for PT 2 times a week, and then it's really on your own 1 day a week, but hoping to go back to full-time 3 days a week in person very soon. But due to COVID, we can't really do that right now. So fairly rigorous academics. However, you are focusing on your actual degree and just taking this 1 class per semester, military science class plus your lab. So it's not too overwhelming. You do have time for regular college freedoms, Greek life, sports, intramurals or varsity sports, full-time or a part-time job. A lot of our cadets, even if they're on scholarship, have a full-time or part-time job. So it is definitely manageable, and the cadre are here to support you. Next slide. All right, cadet summer training happens between typically your junior and senior year of college. We'll send you to Fort Knox on Kentucky on an all expenses paid trip to train with your fellow cadets from across the nation, including West Pointers as well. It's very tactically based. You can see some of the activities that we participate in there, and it really is kind of a final evaluation of what you've learned your first 3 years in ROTC and your ability to lead a platoon and being made up, in this case, of your fellow cadets through some challenging tactical exercises. So we do day and night land nav, we do marksmanship, a confidence course, rappel tower. You can see all of the activities there. So it is a fun time, but it is challenging, and it is certainly hot at Fort Knox. All right, next slide. Some of the other summer opportunities we offer for cadets that you can participate in either between your junior and senior year, or even as a sophomore, are some of the same things that Brad talked about with airborne and air assault. So if you want to jump out of a plane, you can see somebody doing that there, rappelling out of helicopters. We offer several internships, a lot in cyber and engineering. Our nurses attend a summer training program where they actually embed with a military treatment facility for several weeks and shadow Army nurses that are active duty. Similarly, the cadet troop leadership training is open to any major that you're studying to go embed with an active duty Army unit across the US and even in Germany and Hawaii, all these great vacation destinations, and you're just going to shadow another platoon leader and learn, you know, what the Army's all about. So really great opportunities. Also, Project Global Officer is for learning a language over 10 weeks of the summer and getting a full semester's worth of college credit. And that's a fully paid for language program. All right, next slide. All right, just some of the other activities we participate in here. A lot of these we're not able to do this year because of COVID, but we host the 9/11 ceremony on campus for San Diego State. We help with JROTC and the competitions that they have. As far as judging those, we've started doing a lot more community service activities, color guards, where we're marching out with the flag for various events, including football games, San Diego Padres games when they were playing in person. Recruiting events such as this, we have cadets participate in. So just really a whole lot of activities you can do on top of just your normal curriculum in ROTC. Next slide. All right, and before I turn over to John, my slide in here didn't get added, but why Army ROTC over, say, an academy? Not to say the academies are bad, because again, that was my goal in high school, was to get into the academy, and it didn't happen, but I got here. But at ROTC, you can earn a degree in anything you want. So it doesn't have to be a STEM major. I know each of the services are different as far as what you have to major in. I majored in elementary education when I went through ROTC, so that's proving very helpful now. You have the opportunities for the adventure training and the language training, which I covered already. You have that option to serve in the National Guard or Reserve. So if you want to be an engineer on the civilian side, you can still do that and serve in the Guard or Reserves part-time after you commission and graduate. I talked about retaining the freedoms of a college student, working part-time, joining a fraternity, a sorority, sports, just the standard college life you will get to enjoy. You will receive a monthly stipend, which John will go over, as well as a book stipend. So you'll get paid about $420 each month while you're in ROTC. You can compete for scholarships to pay for full room and board at the university of your choice, or full tuition, a choice between the two. You can't have both. And then you do have the opportunity to apply for West Point. I can nominate you, and actually we sent 2 cadets this year to West Point out of the ROTC program, which is great. Again, different path. Same end state. They're going to commission. We hate to lose them from our program, but they're still going to end up being an officer in the military, which is great. And then again, you get to commission and lead America's Sons and Daughters, which is extremely rewarding. So I'm going to turn it over to John now to cover what we're looking for in scholarships.
Okay, great. Thank you, Colonel Bartlett. So I'm going to be real brief with some of the criteria of what we're looking for. There's several ways to earn a scholarship through ROTC. The slide you're looking at right now is for a national high school process. So it pretty much, you know, the minimum criteria, the GPA and the 3.0 GPA for the ROTC courses. If you're a high school senior, I can help you achieve scholarship status, even though you haven't demonstrated your ROTC courses yet in college. We just nominated 6 people we got scholarships for this year. One of the key things Mr. Mullen spoke on in there earlier is the DOD-MERP. So I'll walk you through that process. No civil convictions. So I'll give you my contact information. So if you have additional questions about this, you can do our scholarship process in addition to West Point. So you should be doing every check in the box. Next slide, please. The campus-based scholarships are scholarships that Colonel Parlett and I manage. So when you come in as a freshman to any one of our schools, we get a certain amount of scholarships per year. The criteria that we have here, the scholar, athlete, leader model, you have to meet one of these criteria. It's great if you can put all the checks in the box. That's not always the case, but a minimum of one. So once again, the summary of this entire process is, if you can get into one of the service academies, great, but you should also look at ROTC, put that on your plate as well to give yourself the best chance to serve your country and have the country pay for it. So just put all the checks in the block and we're here to help you. Next slide, please. This is our contact information. So if you want to reach out to me, check out our Facebook page as well. We really tried to bring that up. So communicate with us. Our cadets are on there. And thank you for your time, and good luck with your scholarship application.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Lieutenant Colonel and John. Thank you guys very much for that presentation. Go Aztecs, my wife works there. All right. Now we're going to go now to Jim Hardy, United States Coast Guard Academy admissions partner.
Awesome. Congressman,
You're right there. There you are.
Good. Yeah, thank you. Sorry about that. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. You know, the intricacies of Zoom. Congressman, thank you very much, for inviting Coast Guard. As you know, of course, Congressman, we don't require a nomination process. So we feel really lucky when you allow us on these meetings and stuff. And also, I love your staff. They rock. Anyway, let me roll right in. I'm actually a Naval Academy grad, 1982. I was a naval architect, and my middle son is a senior this year at the Coast Guard Academy. So, little known fact in the San Diego area, there's 4 of us admission partners that are Naval Academy graduates that support the Coast Guard. So, anyway, so Coast Guard Academy. Let's go to the next slide, please. Okay, why go Coast Guard? All right, first of all, as the other panels have mentioned, you cannot go wrong with any service academy. And as a matter of fact, I would really strongly suggest you apply to more than one service academy, and obviously ROTC plays heavily in that as well. Coast Guard is very, very different in the sense it has law enforcement authorities and regulatory authorities. That being said, I've deployed several times to Iraq with Coast Guard ships and Coast Guard officers on our staff. Navy and Coast Guard go hand to hand, especially in times of conflict. So don't think that Coast Guard's a one-trick pony, that they only do maritime safety and security and rescue. They actually do have a combat role, a security role in a combat zone. Next slide, please. Our next slide, if you can. I'll just keep talking. So we're not under Department of Defense, we're under the Department of Homeland Security. And again, as the previous slide showed, it's primarily focused on safety, security, and stewardship of marine resources. So it is the only military service, law enforcement, and regulatory power, amongst all the military services. We should be on and go to the fourth slide if you can. And if not, I'll keep rolling. So the Coast Guard Academy is located on the East Coast, on New England. So it's northeast of New York, south of Boston and Rhode Island. So coming from California, it's a very compressed area. You don't have to drive very far to see a completely different city, and in fact, a completely different way of speaking, if you know what I mean, between, say, a Bostonian and a New Yorker. But it's a lot of fun on the East Coast. The kids that I know that classmates of my son absolutely love it out there. It's a completely unique experience. Next slide, please. I'm going to talk about the snapshot of the class of 2024. That's the class that just started last summer. Coast Guard is very, very serious about diversity. Almost 40% of the class of 2024 are women. 36% are minority. And if you look at the math SAT score. It's ranges between 600 and 680. That's the middle 50%. It doesn't mean if you have lower than that you're automatically excluded. It just represents the kind of the SAT score similar to the service academies that we're looking for. 80% were high school varsity athletes, and then 66 have already decided that they're going to major in engineering, math, or some of the science degrees. And I'll talk about some of the degrees in the next slide. Let's go next slide, please. All right, so much like the other service academies, it's top undergrad experience. That's from U.S. News and World Report, top 15 engineering school. Student to faculty ratio, 8-to-1, very similar. You will hit that 8-to-1 student to faculty ratio on your first year. So because the Coast Guard Academy is so small, less than 1,000 students in all 4 classes, you have a lot of intimacy with your instructors. So even as a senior, you're going to be working your senior design project or your capstone project. It's kind of a one-on-one with somebody with a PhD or above. Let's see, 100% job placement, like as you would expect for the military. And the Coast Guard, like other services, is huge supporter, huge proponent of graduate degrees. So 85% that stay in past their 5-year commitment, go on to earn a master's or PhD degree. Value-driven and holistic. Everything you do as a cadet at the Coast Guard, that includes within your in your academic classes, your athletics, your leadership on your leadership responsibilities as a cadet, as an upper class cadet over underclass cadet. It's all focused on on leadership. It's to work that leadership problem to make you the best leader upon graduation as an ensign. And then when you do graduate, you do get, it's interesting, Merchant Marine Academy has a very similar license, but you graduate with a 100-ton mariner's license, civilian mariner's license. So they take the maritime piece of that, your maritime responsibilities are huge as far as executing safety of navigation and working those response calls in a most safe and expeditious manner with which you can do. I want to go talk about the majors. Obviously, with a school this size, you're not going to have the vast number of majors. So, like I said, on the previous slide, we talked about focus on engineering courses. We also have marine and environmental science, ops research, and computer analysis. And then, of course, government and management. And the last one is cyber systems. That's unique. That's a new major as of last year. If you're lucky enough to land a cyber systems major, you are guaranteed to go into the cyber community within the Coast Guard. And for instance, upon graduation as an ensign, you might be sent to National Security Agency or cryptologic security group, something like that, where you're working with other service counterparts. Very, very different career path, but very, very focused on cyber security, cyber systems protect. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, athletics. It's Coast Guard Academy is a Division III school, with the exception of sailing, rifle, and pistol were Division I. But athletics, again, as I mentioned before, that is a huge area of focus. The military kind of equates athletic readiness or physical readiness with your ability to lead effectively. So you cannot get away with kind of walking away from athletics upon graduation from high school. A very, very high number, I think it's around 85% of kids that graduate or enter the Coast Guard Academy are varsity athletes. So if you want to continue your kind of sports career, so to speak, as a varsity team member, Coast Guard Academy is probably one of your best tickets to do that. So all sports allow walk-ons, even including football. So if you haven't been recruited for a sport, that does not automatically exclude you from say swimming on the swim team or soccer team, etc. So it's a pretty neat opportunity there. Next slide, please. And then music programs are huge. Again, look at music as a form of leadership and organizational management. So they're very, very popular with the cadets. And next slide, please. Okay, now this is the nitty gritty. So admissions, we do use a modified rolling admissions process. So if you're, for instance, if you your application is such that you're very, very strong, you've got great SAT scores, your letters are excellent, your grades, high school grades are outstanding, you'll probably get accepted pretty soon in the process. So if you don't get accepted right away on that first, say the first board that meets, then they will most likely roll your application to the next board, and then, you know, till they've exhausted all the candidates. As I mentioned before, there's no nomination requirement. You have to meet the medical fitness and weight standards just like the other services. We don't have a common application, but everything is done online. Okay, so requirement, it's the same as everybody else. You know, citizenship, no dependents, and you got to be under 23 years of age by the time you enter that first summer. And just like the others, you know, especially we're very similar to Naval Academy, so we like chemistry, we like physics. You need labs, you know, huge on math and English, especially English writing. It's kind of a item of emphasis. The fleet has kind of realized that a lot of the kids coming into the Coast Guard Academy and graduate are not the best writers, and they haven't emphasized that. So they're really working toward kind of not taking a hard look at that, but that's something very, very important. So you want to make sure you can write well. And that's usually when you fill out your application and write the essays, it's a very important clue. So you want to do the best you possibly can on the application itself. Okay, and then next slide, please. Okay, 100% online, including like letters of recommendation. You'll for instance, you'll identify your math instructor, and then they'll be sent a link, and then they write your recommendation online. Okay, so leadership sorry, getting too excited here. SAT and ACT with the writing portion. That's obviously this year that's really tough, and I'll talk about that on the slide that talks about timelines. You need a recommendation for your math, English guidance counselor, and then the PFE. Average is 220 for that. It's a numerical score. That is one area that I always tell applicants, you can always improve that, so work hard. It's not hard to work on, say, your pull-ups, or I'm sorry, not pull-ups, push-ups if you're not, if that's not your strong suite. So that is an area of the PFE is an area that you could really, really improve and get that higher score. And then typically, past 2 years, the interview has been a requirement. So most likely, when certain part of the process, you'll be contacted by myself, probably in the San Diego area, to schedule an interview with myself or another admissions partner. And then Mr. Mullins gave a great presentation on DOMWRM. You know, that's one area that as soon as you get notified that you need to get the physical exam, so it's a physical and eye exam, go ahead and schedule that right away. Don't waste any time. You want to allow the system to be able to accommodate if you've got, say, something in your physical medical record that raises a question. You want to make sure you have time to hammer that thing out, get those things corrected. Last year was kind of tight for some of the applicants that we had. Let's see, okay, and then one change on the PFE, and I apologize for backing up. So a couple days ago, 2 or 3 days ago, the Coast Guard Academy admissions relaxed the requirement to have an outside entity like your PE coach or a ROTC instructor to do your PFE. You can now have one of your parents do that for you. But I still would suggest that that's your last resort. Try to get your PE instructors or sports coach, or if there's a ROTC unit nearby that you're associated with, have that person record your PFE scores. Makes for a much cleaner application. Okay, next slide, please, Mark. Okay, critical date. So early action deadline is October 15th. Now, one change for that is your SAT and ACT scores with the cancellations, etc. That's been extended to November 15th. So if you can get your scores, if you're applying for early action, meet the application deadline by October 15th. Make sure that you can try to get your scores by November 15th. And please, ask a question if that's kind of confusing. Early action decision is just before Christmas on December 23rd. And then the regular admissions deadline has been pushed back till January 29th. Okay. And then if you're lucky, June 28th, you start Slow Up Summer for the class of 2025. And then July 15th is when this whole process starts over again. So mid-July, the application opens. So especially for the junior, if there's any juniors that are up on this, keep that in mind. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, first assignment. So this is awesome. So you graduate, you're commissioned an ensign, you most likely go on a cutter. And if you're lucky enough to select for flight school, you go to Pensacola with the Navy. And then if you're cyber, you're guaranteed. I mean, I can't say guarantee, but you're most likely go to another shore location. One thing about aviation in the Coast Guard, Coast Guard has the highest per capita number of pilots in its officer community. So, which is a good thing. If you don't pick up aviation upon graduation, if you don't select right off the bat, you can select your next tour, which is kind of unique amongst the services. So keep that in mind. So if you want to fly, we definitely take a hard look at the Coast Guard. And next slide, please. All right. And admissions officer. So I'm staying in for Lieutenant Brittany Martineau, formerly Driscoll. She's our California admissions officer. And I'll put her contact information on the chat. And then I'm your local coordinator in the San Diego area, and I've got a team of admissions partners that we assist in all phases of the application process. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so a couple cats and dogs. So for the juniors, if there's any juniors, AIM or Academy Introduction Mission is a week-long immersion program, occurs during the summer. You want to apply to that if you're a junior. My son did. That turned out to be the deciding factor that pushed him toward the Coast Guard. Services have similar programs. This was a huge plus for him. Roughly, let's say 60. It's a pretty high percentage of students that have gone to AIM later select for Coast Guard. It allows the Coast Guard Academy to take a look at you, and also for you to look at the Coast Guard and say, hey, this is a good fit for me, or it's not a good fit at all. So it really works out well, and the kids have a very, very high success rate. Most of campus visits have been obviously canceled right now, but we still put those on there. So in case things change, that you have that option. You certainly can take a virtual tour. You see U.S. Coast Guard, uscga.edu virtual tour. Genesis Day is a great opportunity. I don't know if we're going to do a virtual version of that this year, so we'll kind of stand by for that. And then Coast Guard Scholars Program, even as a Naval Academy grad, I actually had to go to prep school for a year. So that's what this is. So I wasn't, my academic record wasn't strong enough upon graduating from high school. So I went to prep school, and Coast Guard Academy has the same program when they call it Coast Guard Academy Scholars Program. If you're, say, a football player and Coast Guard wants you, you'll probably go to Newport at NAPS, Naval Academy Prep School. And there's 2 other schools that the Coast Guard uses for the Scholars Program. But if you do, I guess what I'm saying is at the end of the day, and this applies to all services, if you're offered a prep school type opportunity, I would highly suggest you take it. There's a lot of kids, last year we noticed some applicants that they didn't feel quite right about that, and they just felt like it wasn't something they wanted to do, and we were able to kind of talk them through the process, say, hey, this is absolutely your best shot, or a great shot to get into the Service Academy. You do a year of academic and in some cases leadership experiences with prep school, and then when you start with that incoming class, you were like already a year ahead of everybody else, and it makes that your whole 4-year experience much more interesting, much I won't say easier, but it is a little bit easier for you. Okay, and thank you very much. I apologize I ran through those things, but didn't want to hold anybody up. And that's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Captain. I have to say, I thought I heard a parrot there at some point. You know, with the Lieutenant Colonel, I heard a dog, and with you, I heard a parrot. And I don't know what that means, but there you are. All right.
Thanks.
Now we're going to go to Mike. Now, Mike is with the United States Merchant Marine Academy. So welcome, Mike.
Thank you for having me here, Congressman.
Of course. You're on.
All right. I'm not sure if there's any slides, but I can go ahead and talk if there's none. So
Yeah, that's fine.
again,
You can start.
okay. Again, I'm Midshipman Mike Aguilar. I'm a third classman at the United States Merchant Marine Academy, and tonight I will be filling in for Lieutenant Ryan McCann. He is the West Coast Admissions Officer, and I'll put his information in the chat after we present. So the campus, there's 82 acreage of campus, and we are located on Long Island Sound in Kings Point, New York. And we're 30 minutes away from New York City. So oftentimes whenever we get liberty, we head out there to the city, and it's fun for the midshipmen to go out there. Let's see. So quite oftentimes no one really knows about this school. It's usually not mentioned as much. So what do the Merchant Mariners do? The Merchant Mariners, we are privately owned as well as U.S. registered merchant ships, and we provide waterborne transportation for passengers and cargoes in both domestic and international commerce. And we also provide, in times of war and emergencies, to serve as a fourth arm of defense. And some of the ships that we use involve cable laying ships, oil tankers, container ships, heavy lift ships, as well as military sealess command ships. We are, while Navy ships, such as aircraft carriers, destroyers, and whatnot, while they're underway, we bring them food, fuel, oil, ammunition, and we do that while moving, the underway replenishments. So what do you earn as a graduate? You're gonna earn a Bachelor of Science, and you also get to commission as either an ensign or a second lieutenant in any branch. You have the option to choose how you commission. And then also, and quite notably, United States Coast Guard license as a merchant marine officer as either a third mate, where you work in the deck department, or as a third assistant engineer in the engineering department. What it's going to take to get to this point is you're going to have to pass all your in-resident classes. You're going to have to pass a C-year, which I'll talk about later, and then also 7 days of licensing exams. So you graduate, and now what's your obligation? Your obligation at the minimum is you're going to have to work in the maritime industry for about 5 years, which you can do as a civilian. You can work in maritime law, maritime insurance, work in the shipyard. You also have to maintain your Coast Guard license that you receive for at least 6 years, and then also serve in the United States Navy Reserve for 8 years. You also have the option to go active duty for 5 years in any branch. So you can go Air Force, Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Coast Guard, but you also can go into NOAA, the National Oceanographic Atmospheric Administration, and then you can also work in the United States Public Health Service as well. So something unlike the other academies is that we have the most postgraduate options for you. So that's something to really consider while you're applying. So what academic majors do we offer? We offer a total of 5 majors split up into 2 different departments. We have the Department of Marine Transportation, which gets you a deck license. The Marine Transportation degree involves nautical science, maritime business management, as well as supply chains, security, and security. For the Marine Department side, we have shipboard engineering operations, the design of the shipboard systems and machinery, and then the management of shipyards and the production of the ships as well. We have several of these engineering degrees are ABET accredited. SEER. So what is SEER? SEER is the opportunity we get, which is solely unique to us, where we get to take a total of a year at sea working in several different capacities, whether it's with a commercial ship or a military ship, as well as internships as well on our own. But we get a total of either 300 or 330 days where we can complete projects, a total of around 35 credits. And we go everywhere, including Antarctica, Japan, China. There's not been a single place where we haven't been. And while you travel the world on these ships, you do get to go in port and explore and just have a great time and a great experience. So for athletics, we are also a D3 school. For the women's, we just recently added soccer. So I think if you're interested in that. For the men's team, we offer baseball, basketball, cross country, football, lacrosse, soccer, swim and dive, track and field, and also wrestling. The women, we also have basketball, cross country, lacrosse, swim and dive, track and field, and volleyball, as well as soccer. And then for club sports, we have ice hockey, rugby, and water polo. And then also, if you don't find what you want, you can always ask to make up your own club, which we are very accepting for. We also have one of the biggest waterfront programs in the nation, where we have a few training vessels. We also have a large offshore sailing team where we compete in a race to Bermuda from, I believe it is New Jersey. And then we also have a power squadron consisting of several motor vessels. We have keel boats and dinghy, which is part of our sailing team, and we also have a rowing team. We also have a regimental band where we partake in presidential parades, the St. Patrick's Day Parade, Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, and the Cotton Bowl halftime show. And we also do have choir, rock, jazz, string, as well, if that interests you. Let's see. There are some average scores. There's a lot to go off on this slide. Let's see. It's a similar thing to all the other academies that make you stand out. Their average scores, so keep shooting for the best that you can. Being in the top 20% of your class is great. National Honor Society, Sea Cadets, cadet programs, it ought to all get you, put you on a good advantage to get into any of these schools. And let's see. Yeah, that'll do it for tonight.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I got one quick question. Who normally wins that sailing race? Is that, who wins that, Dad? Is it the Coast Guard? Is it you guys? Is it the Naval Academy? Who normally wins that one?
That's going to be us, sir. Go Mariners. Be Coast Guard.
I think everyone else was muted. They may have challenged you on that otherwise. But I do want to thank all the speakers here tonight. We went a little bit long. I have to tell you, this was excellent, though. I've done 7 of these. And I have to say, the information that we got tonight as a group really was excellent, really was first class. Thank each and every one of you. And for those young people that are listening and are online, I have to tell you, not only listening to the opportunities at the Academy, listen also to the people who went to them. And, you know, wouldn't you like to be like them? I mean, that's to me impressive to see all these people willing to serve our nation and do it in such an honorable and ethical way. Thank you very much again for your service, for each and every one of you. And again, I hope that some young people that are on tonight, want to step into their shoes, because that's what we need in our country, to continue that tradition of having our military, to have our armed forces not only well prepared, but also ethically the best in the world. And that's what you saw tonight. And again, I appreciate each and every one of you that came and spoke. I do want to say for my office, The application packets, the deadline, I believe, is November the 1st. And so I would suggest that you submit your application packets to my office here in San Diego, where I am, or Imperial County by November the 1st. And again, this year my office will be holding virtual panel interviews for those who move forward in the nomination process. And again, I wish each and every one of you the best. We did go a little long, so I think if you have any questions, submit them to us. I think you have the information of all the presenters and certainly of my office, and we'll get back to you. And again, I want to thank all the presenters today. And again, I tell all you young people that are looking at going into these academies, take a look at the people who presented today. I mean, wouldn't you like to be like them, serving our nation in such an honorable way? I mean, we would all be proud. And I have to tell you, now from my experience here, the people that I get to call or I get to talk to once they've been admitted are incredible. And now the people that have graduated and I've talked to afterwards, their experience always is first rate. And again, I appreciate each and every one of you. God bless you guys. And again, good night.